Yeah.
Training, you need
To get a call.
I'm just gonna
Out.
Now it's like the countries.
Do you see yourself moving back to America?
No, never.
Why is that?
Well, after the last election, not for 4 more years.
Also, like knowing that in Korea right now they're kind of enjoying American black culture.
I didn't realize how much of a bubble American people are in, but I didn't realize how much more there was to the world and how much America's not the center of everybody's life.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that Johnny Somalia thing didn't help for Americans. Very embarrassing.
What's it like living in Korea for Americans? Where are you from?
I am from North Carolina in the U.S.
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Originally born in Texas, grew up in South Carolina.
From a town right outside of Chicago.
Los Angeles.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Do you see yourself leaving Korea back to America?
I don't see myself leaving anytime soon, no.
Why so?
Well, I'm living pretty comfortably right now. I'm working as a model and I have a lot of friends here and I'd hate to leave that.
No, never. No.
Why is that?
Well, after the last election, not for 4 more years. But even then, no, I don't see. I've been out of the States for more than 20 years. I don't see myself ever going back.
Which countries have you lived in?
I lived in China, I lived in Spain for like 10 years, and then Korea for this.
Yeah, I mean, I just got engaged to my Korean girlfriend. We do want to start a family, but if we have kids, if and when we put them to school, I have some objections to putting them through school here. And I also have a lot of family in the U.S. And in general, I just want to give them like a global experience. And I'm a fan of living in the U.S. I think some cities are amazing. It's so diverse, West Coast, East Coast, South, even the North side. So I do see a lot of value in at least temporarily living in the U.S.
I think that at some point maybe. Right now I'm just kind of chilling, doing my own thing, having fun, living life.
And with the recent change in the government, has that affected your perception about moving back to America?
I think in general, kind of the political atmosphere in the States is a little hot right now, a little volatile. So where I'm at here in Korea now, it's been really good, really fun, and just in general, a little bit more peaceful in my eyes, just because I'm not as involved with Korean politics here.
Eventually, yeah, but I'd like to stay here for at least another 6 to 12 months.
With the recent changes that have happened in America, has that affected your perception about moving back to America?
Kind of not really, I guess, especially from Los Angeles, things kind of are, a bit more left-leaning liberal over there, so not really too much.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think with recent events, it's not exactly an ideal place to be, but that's, just my opinion. But typically I miss it for the wide open spaces. I miss my family. And it's just kind of those certain comforts of growing up at home. Obviously, I didn't really move around to a lot of countries when I was younger. So I do miss a lot of things about the States, but the longer I live in Korea, the more comfortable I am here. There's things that I'm really accustomed to here, like the convenience of everything, the cleanliness of everything, the safety of everything. And those are just things that I don't know if I'm willing to negotiate as I get older. But I kind of go back and forth on it, to be honest. You
mentioned about, the recent changes in America. Are you referring to the recent political party change?
Yes, yeah.
How has that affected your perspective about going back to America?
I think what's difficult about it for me is I don't necessarily have a preference, but it's more about the divide that happens socially. There's almost a heaviness in the air typically. I think the president now is quite polarizing as an individual, so it's either you're heavily one side or the other. It just feels like there's not a lot of balance. So I just kind of get a little bit nervous about, those sort of tensions going back. But other than that, I still want to see my family all the time, and there's those certain luxuries and foods and things that I miss all the time.
Maybe not, probably not.
Why is that?
I would say my life here, I've only been here for a month. I visited another 4 months ago, and I've just been genuinely a lot happier, a lot more creative since being here.
With the recent changes that happened in the government in America, do you think that has affected your perception about going back to America?
I don't believe I'm too affected by it. A lot of government things, I really don't keep track of it too much. I've always cared a lot more about international presence. Instead of being there, I could just be here,
You mentioned earlier on that Seoul has affected you in a more creative way. Yeah. How so? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
I speak about this pretty often. Seoul has been a huge industry for animation across the world. I'm an animator myself, and in Seoul, they always animate for other countries, make shows for other countries. Avatar: Last Airbender, that was made in Seoul. They could make so many shows for themselves, but they decide to be for everyone else. So as an animator, I would like to come here and make animations and series and films for Korea.
I want to say that it's not impossible, but for the foreseeable future, I really like living here. I'm really comfortable, and I just feel like this is the type of lifestyle I wanted for myself. So I'm going to say maybe, but not right now.
With the recent change in the power in America, like has there changed your perspective about going back to America?
I'm going to be honest, I gave up on America like a long time ago. Like, I wanted to move out of America since I was in high school. I even thought of like moving to Germany for a while because they had really nice scholarship opportunities as well. And I just ended up moving to Korea. Like, I just wanted to move out of the US because I wasn't enjoying it. So let's just say like it was just another nail in the coffin.
Is life better for you here in Korea than back home in America?
I don't know if I could say it's better. I haven't lived life as an adult in America because I came right after I graduated college, but I can say that it's more exciting. There's always something happening in Korea.
Life's pretty damn good here. It's really safe. I have friends, the community here. I speak Korean, that helps a lot. You speak Korean, you know. You gotta learn Korean. Yeah, there's like a lot of cool things going on here. There's a lot of small business owners like myself. Yeah, my life is great here. The food is great. I can get almost everything I need via Coupang or Amazon. I'm not really missing much here. Maybe some food, maybe some people, maybe some more geography.
I've been here 4 or 5 years now, so it feels like now I'm a little bit more comfortable here. Because when I go back, there's almost like a reverse culture shock situation, you know what I mean? Especially with like cultural, social things, I think. So I wouldn't say it's better. Like when it comes to opportunity as far as working, you're very restricted here as a foreigner for your visa type. There's certain things that you are allowed to do, aren't allowed to do, versus in the States, I could pretty much do anything I want, which is really nice, right? That's a luxury of being able to go into any field or study anything that I want. But here I'm a little bit limited in that regard. But when it comes to like travel, for example, I have so many more options living in Korea because I've been able to go to Singapore, Thailand, all over the world, and versus the States because it's so big, but it's also so far away from everything else. The ability to travel and stuff becomes harder. So there's definitely pros and cons, I think.
I think that's kind of a relative question. I think in general, life's kind of what you make it. And it's what you focus on in your life, whether you focus on the bad things that are happening or focus on the good things that are happening around you and for you. So yeah.
100% yes, yeah. Because I hate cars, and here the public transportation is awesome. The quality of life, walking around, places to go, yeah. 100%.
I still need to live here for a bit longer, I think. 4.5 months isn't really enough to tell. And the one difficult thing is I love surfing and love the beach. So it's a bit tough, and that was like one of the biggest reasons why I was kind of picking between here and Busan, actually, because I do really like the beach, and it's a bit far from here.
Why did you choose Seoul over Busan?
I really do like the city as well. I really like all the people here, so yeah.
Yes, as someone who wants to focus on animation and making art, I would say being here where they actually appreciate black culture, black art, a lot more than they would over there. I feel like it's just so, I feel like here they're really appreciating something new as of late in the creative scene. So my life here has just genuinely been a lot better, meeting, other creative people, and yeah, it's just been a lot better here for me.
I have to say yes, because every day I really feel freedom here. Like, I can do whatever I want. There's so many cute exhibitions to go to. There's like so much good food, and like I can go anywhere I want freely and easily with like, I know I'm obsessed with transportation, but it's really made such a big difference in my life because back in Georgia, anytime I want to go anywhere, I obviously have to get someone to drive me, which I know could be solved if I just wanted to get a car. But like, what if I don't want to do that? And it's possible in a lot of other places in the world, like Seoul. Like, I've been living that way here for years now. And even a lot of my Korean friends don't own a car, so it's normal here, and I really like that.
How much did it cost for you to move out of America to Korea?
I saved up a lot before I came. I saved at least $15,000 before I came here to put down a down payment on a house. If I calculated it all, it would be around $20,000.
It was free. Well, Americans, provided you've graduated from university and you have a university degree, after some training, you need to get some teaching training. I think it's like ESL or TEFL or something like that. It's been a while. It's been over 10 years for me, so don't quote me on what exactly you need to get the certifications. But native English speakers can get a certification, teaching certification, basic one, and then teach English in Korea. Most schools, at least back when 10 years ago when I did it, will pay for your ticket over. Will pay for your room and board. Will pay for your ticket out of here after your contract's done. And so that's what I did.
I think in total because I have to get all the documents apostilled and everything, and then of course mailing everything back and forth. I think in total it took about $2,000 to process all the documentation, to get the visa, and of course sign with my agency and everything like that. But I think as far as housing, it can be up to like 10,000 USD as far as the deposit, the 10 million chonse, and then of course like rent and stuff. So I would say around 15,000 USD, relatively, kind of depending on which area you live in, what your job is going to be like when you get here, and income and all that.
I think in general, roughly about 2K to get here. I came here as a teacher. I do a little bit more modeling and coaching now. I'm pretty sure most contracts now, they'll end up paying for your flight back, or paying for your flight here after a while, so yeah.
Well, I moved from Spain to Korea, but that being said, really very little because I'm a teacher and they paid for my flight here. So just for some visa stuff, a couple $100 or something.
So I'm not doing like the typical Korean rental system, the big deposit and everything. I just got a month-to-month place. So I'm using 33M squared. So I got a spot and it's about like 1.5 million a month. And it's like fully furnished, everything there, and nice, like a nice new building. But it's not in Seoul directly, it's in Pyeongchang. So it's a little like 45 minutes south of here.
Altogether around $1,000. I didn't bring too much stuff. I just brought, my bags and technology, and that's all I need. Just a 1 bag, 2 bag technology. I don't take too much to live.
I think it costed me $4,000. I'm gonna say with the plane ticket, well, a one-way plane ticket, my Airbnb when I first moved here before I got a house, and then the down payment on the house, and like food expenses. Like I thought it would cost me more, and so I saved up a lot, but I want to say for like 2 months-ish, that's how much it costed me, including like plane and everything.
How does living in Korea compare to back in North Carolina?
It's so much safer. I feel like that goes with a lot of different places in the States because North Carolina is a little bit more rural, I would say. So I would say it's just safer is kind of the overarching theme here. But I'm able to like walk down the street wearing headphones at like 2 a.m. and not even question it. But some larger cities, whether it's North Carolina or anywhere else in the States, you kind of have that air of caution all the time. Of course, things like gun laws, for example, not having any guns around in Korea makes things feel a lot more secure and safer. But I think for North Carolina, for example, I miss Southern hospitality. Like I miss like that Southern culture. Everybody's super warm and things like that. So again, pros and cons.
How did you get into the Korean culture, and what made you decide to move out of North Carolina to Seoul?
So I was studying medicine in undergrad, and before entering into the medical field and doing things like residency and entering into a hospital, I really wanted to travel the world first. So I knew that going to another country was, kind of what I had my heart dead set on, but it was deciding where. I think that was difficult for me. So when it came down to having that conversation with my family and figuring out where to go, I didn't want to go to Europe because it felt a little bit too close to home. I really wanted to put myself out of my comfort zone. And so I was just kind of looking around Asia, East Asia, and it came down to like Japan, China, Korea. And I ended up having a sorority sister a couple years older than me who had moved here 2 years prior. So I reached out to her and I was kind of like, what was your experience like? Her name is Adrienne Hill. You guys could go check her out as well. Yeah, I messaged her about like what her experience was like here. And she was like, I think you would love it. I think it's worth a shot. So I came here originally for about 6 months and then I just didn't leave. I've been here for about 5 years now.
The cost of an apartment is much less. Well, there is a down payment. There's a month down payment, which is the usual case, and it's not very much. It's just a month's worth of rent. The housing system is a little different. But then, of course, there's the culture shock that comes with finding a new job in a new country, having to adapt to the new style of working. And for myself, I actually had never had an official job in the U.S., so I was learning everything from scratch, how to pay my taxes in a foreign country.
And why did you decide to make that move from America to Korea?
I guess it goes back to, I've always wanted to live abroad. I didn't always want to spend my entire life in the US. I always loved languages, and I started studying Korean at university. The reason I did that is because I had a really close friend of mine growing up. She got me into things like the music, the culture, the food, everything, and I went on a trip with her. I also came back after that trip for an internship, and after that internship, I felt like I feel comfortable in Korea. I have a good grasp of the language, and I want to try to start a new life or career in Korea fresh out of college. And that's the decision that my 21-year-old self made.
Like in the US, you have to drive everywhere. That's a huge thing. Transportation is just so difficult in the US, except if you feel like you're in like New York. Seoul is really easy. Busan's maybe easy, these bigger cities. Korea, you probably also need a car outside of the big city. But I think most people live in and around Seoul. That's just a fact. People, small talk. That's a big thing. Like in America, you're like buying groceries like, hey, looks like you guys are busy today. How's business going? Oh, did you see the sports game the other night? Oh, crazy, right? With a complete stranger. Here in Korea, you do that. They're like, 네. Yeah, 알겠습니다. I try to do that a few times because like I go to the same store over and over. And as an American, I like to feel like, a neighborhood, a neighborly connection with like the people that literally feed me, buying food from you guys. 안녕하세요. 오늘 사람 좀 많네요. 추석이니까 사람 좀 많이 오고 있나 봐요. Well, whatever. And they're just like, yeah. And I'm just like, I feel like rejected or anything. Maybe that's an American thing. We Americans, we love to like small talk, at least some of us. And especially the Southerners, like, Southern hospitality or whatever. I'm not Southern, but I have friends there.
I think for me personally, it's a little bit more peaceful. I love my family, but I think everyone has like those moments where they kind of want to be on their own and they're not as tied to dealing with problems and stuff like that. I think here it kind of allows you to live on your own and actually be on your own and kind of explore who you are as a person. So I'm not going to say it's better or worse, but I do think that I have more sense of freedom about myself here.
Well, in America, I feel like everybody's very like closed off, like just driving to a, superstore to buy a big television to stay at home and watch TV all night. Here, people live like out and about and do things. There's always like fun activities, free activities. It's a lot safer, of course, because there are no guns. The door to my building is not even locked, so yeah.
The lifestyles are very different. I'm really into cafe culture and cafe hopping, and obviously like in Seoul itself, there's so many cafes. So like every day, I'm still working remotely. So I'll go find a new cafe somewhere in the city, go there, work a bit, and then just kind of like pick something that I haven't done and kind of try to explore. So that's different where it's like in California, in Southern California, I usually like wake up, we'll go to the beach, surf, work from home, maybe a cafe, and then kind of like, I have a lot more friends and everything out there and like family. So I don't have as much of that here. No family. Even the friends out here, it's like different. Like they're not like the type of friends who are gonna hang out every day. It's more of like, if I have time on the weekend, if I can get off my job, I'll hang out. So that in that way, it's like I'm doing a lot more solo stuff here, but it's still enjoyable.
After living here for a while, when I go back and visit the US, it definitely feels like I kind of been living in a dream world, or like just being able to have as much fun as I want. Even though I do work a lot here, I just feel like so many things are much more easier, which is very ironic considering like this is a foreign country and like, they speak a different language. Even though I do speak Korean, like I've just found a lot of things to be easier for me. Even like going to the bank, you can get a card made the same day, and like back in the US, you have to wait like a week or two for the card to be sent to you. It's like, that's my example, right? I just feel like weirdly things here are so easy for me. Of course I've had hard moments, but like everything just seems really comfortable here.
언제부터 한국 문화에 대한 관심 생겼나요?
2017년이었던 것 같아요. 그때부터 저 고등학생이었고 K-팝이랑 K-드라마에 관심이 생겼어요. 그때는 그냥 취미로 보고 있었었는데 사실 한국어를 공부하기 전에 일본어 공부하고 있었어요. 근데 너무 어려웠어요. 간지 같은 거 배우기 시작했을 때 정말 너무 어려워서 그때도 제가 15살이었던 것 같아요. 카카오톡 다운받았고 그 채팅방에서 친구들이 많이 사귀었어요. 그래서 같이 한국 갈 여행도 계획했고 그 이후에는 그냥 이렇게 됐어요.
첫 번째 보게 된 한국 드라마 기억이 나요?
Oh My Ghost였던 것 같아요.
For one, if you want to eat in the U.S., one meal could cost you anywhere from $15 to $20, and that's on the low end. So being able to eat for cheap is good. Living a lot cheaper in public transportation, it's always on time.
What are some things you miss about the U.S.?
This is going to sound a little bit silly, I miss the driving. Because in the States, you have to drive everywhere. There is no public transportation, but two different sides of the same coin. I love the fact that public transportation here is so easy and it's so clean. But I do miss like driving down back roads in North Carolina, and like I miss the beautiful mountains and the colors, and I miss the beaches and the Outer Banks. So I kind of miss that, of course. I miss like just the certain comforts of home. Like everyone, of course, speaks the same language, and culturally, there's those sort of references that I think are missed here sometimes with Korean people. Yeah, I miss my family more than anything though. But I go home once a year for about a month or so because I have to like reset, you know what I mean? Like I have to like go see my family and then start over and then come back here.
Honestly, I really miss kettle style potato chips. Every time I go back or have a friend coming, I ask them to bring me some jalapeno kettle style potato chips because Korean chips are really thin and they're kind of like soft and sweet, which is like okay, but I really like crunchy potato chips. And of course I miss my family, but like I'm gonna make them come here, so it's fine.
My friends, my family, my mother's cooking, where I went to college. I really miss college. I miss Boston. I love the city of Boston. And maybe some cultural elements, like the fact that it's normal to walk up to somebody and say hi, and it's not considered weird to just greet people sometimes, ask them how their day was, even if you don't know them. Sometimes people in the US are friendly, or it might be considered overly friendly, but to me, that's my culture. That's normal to me.
Getting paid in USD is amazing. That's amazing. I miss about the US, like just everything is in English there. Obviously, that's really convenient for me. Like going to the bank, going to the hospital in English is just way easier. I miss my family. I miss bigger houses, bigger spaces, more nature. It's just like everything is bigger. There's more space, you know?
Obviously family. Love my family. Got 5 younger sisters, so miss the hell out of them. But in general, food, snacks, the junk food. I kind of miss the portion sizes, although it's probably healthier for me here. But in general, I think that family is the number one. To my favorite chain food places, stuff like that. So yeah.
You talked about the food portions here. How is it compared to like back home?
I think in general, the first thing I saw when I came here was the serving sizes are a lot smaller here. Definitely healthier. Portion size, I think in America we tend to overeat a little bit. And I remember asking for like a cup of water and you get one that's like this small and it's like, but obviously I'm gonna need more. But then also kind of sometimes realizing that less is more. And sometimes we do end up overindulging, so yeah. Was that like a struggle for you, like adapting at first, like in terms of you maybe like going to a restaurant, buying a certain meal, the portion was small and you were not full? Yeah, but then also I think it kind of made me realize kind of how much we use in excess. And so being here, I've kind of become more aware of how that works and just in general, how much I actually need to maintain. Not so much in a minimalist kind of mindset, but just what do you actually need to survive, so yeah.
Well, my family. Maybe like how easy it is to just speak English and have everyone understand me. Those are the two major ones. And you can always find English books.
In Southern California specifically, probably the Mexican food. The Mexican food is so good.
Like, have you not been able to find like an authentic Mexican spots out here?
Not quite yet. I've tried a few spots, but it's not the same. Yeah.
Maybe being able to walk up to strangers and speak whenever you want. That's something that's not very common here. In New York, you make a friend every day. So I'd say that's something that I miss a little bit. But with all the influx of international presence in Seoul right now, I'm meeting people, like you as well,
In what ways do you think Americans in Korea are perceived by the locals?
Some people really like America because of what they do in terms of protecting South Korea from North Korea. And I've heard some people think that Americans are quite loud or could be rude sometimes.
I'm not going to say that they don't have a right to think this, but I know they think Americans are kind of loud and like very like open. Like they'll just talk to any stranger and they don't really have a wall with people, which is sometimes true. But I know they also think a lot of Americans are fat. Like, I know this for a fact because every time I've met, like, an older Korean person and I tell them I'm American, they're like, oh, but aren't American people fat? Like, even my boyfriend's mom asked this to me. Like, when she first met me, he told her I was American. And then she was like, oh, but she's so not fat. And I was like, okay.
I think that Americans in general are considered kind of loud here. And I think just because most Americans speak English, and so being in a foreign language, it always sounds a lot louder than your natural native tongue. And so, and I think we have a lot of energy sometimes, but that's not, necessarily a bad thing. But definitely a lot louder, a lot more energy.
What language do you speak?
I speak English. I know a little bit of Spanish, and I'm actually studying Korean now. So.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that Johnny Somalia thing didn't help for Americans. Very embarrassing. I think in general, America and Korea has a really good history, like very like ally history. Korea, I think, follows America, not in every way, but in a lot of the systems.
But that's hard to say because I think historically speaking, Americans have been very closely allied with South Korea. So I think older generations really appreciate Americans, coming here and living here. But in my personal experience, a lot of the American military people that I've met have not always been the friendliest or the most respectful. So I think sometimes it really depends on your first interactions with those people. So I think in younger generations, if they have a negative first reaction, their, sort of idea about what American people are really like has changed. They're not always the nicest or the most respectful. So I think it varies person to person and also by generation, because I think the older generation is a little bit more well-receiving of Americans, but you never know. It depends, because I think American culture bleeds really heavily into Korean media and stuff as well.
Well, of course, Korea sort of really likes America in general. How do they view Americans? Like, sort of like a little bit like as eccentric foreigners, I think that we have a certain amount of respect because of the history and things like that. But I think we're treated well here.
I hear mixed things, and like my own experience I can speak on is like it's usually pretty good. And I know like a white guy living in Korea, like I feel like I'm not really getting like judged or like anything like that. Like I don't know, I think just being like a white male, I have privilege here still. So I think that's kind of like, when someone sees me, it's like nothing, there's like no like negative perceptions or anything like that, but I know there's like negative perceptions about like other groups of people.
They've been generally respectful to me, and maybe in other countries in Asia might be perceived a little bit different. And also, I guess New Yorkers are different from other Americans, but generally I haven't had an issue speaking to Koreans.
How has living in Korea changed your perspective about American culture?
Oh, wow. I think after moving here, actually, I saw a lot of parts about America that I didn't before. And I really did feel like in America, it's a lot more individualistic, to be honest. But weirdly enough, at the same time, I think the work culture in America is slightly better because if you have a problem in a team, I feel like you can try to solve it a bit better than you can in Korea, because even though Korea has a really strong team mindset, I feel like if there's a problem in the work culture here sometimes, it's really hard to solve it. You either just have to it's like my way or the highway basically here. That's what I felt. And I feel like in America it can be that way too, but generally speaking it's a bit easier to actually work as a team, weirdly enough. But I do really feel that in other aspects, America is a lot more individualistic in their like everyday mindset.
One, Americans, we're kind of oversensitive to a lot of things. We overreact, we're kind of oversensitive. Here in Korea, people will be like, just a comment on your appearance. Oh, you look really tired. Did you gain weight? Oh, you don't look good today. Whereas like in America, it's like, oh my God, how could they say that about me? But it's like, whatever, it's just like they're just saying what they think. So yeah, Americans, we're pretty sensitive. Made me become less sensitive to like casual comments like that. Oh, you look skinny, you got to eat more. People will comment about your appearance more often here. Again, I don't know. This is the male perspective. Maybe females have a different perspective. There's a lot of like, oh, American woljuy. America's the best. But we think about it, but we don't even know how subconscious that is. So like, for example, like my mom wants to send me money and she'll be like, I'm going to send it to you via Cash App or something like that. And I'm just like, Mom, no one outside of America can use that. So it's like this kind of like mentality that if it's in America, the whole world must know about it, must use it. And Americans travel and they'll realize how different the world is.
I've thought that America is even more individualist. Like this individualist mindset is very common in America. People oftentimes are working for themselves and their own self like goals and everything. In Korea, I often tend to think about the other person a lot, and that's started to become part of my culture in a way, where like if I make this decision, how will this affect this person or this person in my company?
This is such a good question. I think growing up and living in the States for the first like 21 years of my life, I didn't realize how much of a bubble American people are in. But I mean, it's understandable though, because the states are so big and they are so diverse just depending on the state. But I didn't realize how much more there was to the world and how much America's not the center of everybody's life. So I think my perception has changed in both positive ways and negative ways, because now there's certain things I see about the States and I'm just like, okay, I understand why we get a bad rap. I understand why people think that for the most part we're not worldly or things like that. But I also see the beauty in like the patriotism in the States and how closely knit everybody is for the most part. Southern charm, and then the things like New York and LA being like these cultural trendsetters all over the world. So it definitely goes both ways. I think my opinions of the States have both grown so positively and I feel so much more attached. But at the same time, I'm really thankful for my ability to have been able to travel and learn more about the world and become more of a like worldly person, I think.
Realizing that a lot of times we live in excess, that there's a lot of things that we think that we need that we really don't. As far as like overeating, overindulging, a little bit of overconsumerism. And being here in Korea, I've just kind of not necessarily learned to live with less, but more so learned to live with what I need.
Well, I wasn't a huge fan before after having lived in Spain, but now that I'm here, like it sort of solidified what I already thought, that the States is a difficult place to live.
Right, yeah. And if you could take any culture from Korea back to America, what culture would that be?
You already know my answer, public transportation.
I immediately always think about like the public transit and just how people get around in this place. Oh, it's so much better here. So much better. And yeah, I know it's not culture, but it's just, I really enjoy that part a lot more, yeah.
Efficiency, we aren't very efficient, in America. Also, I feel like in the US, there's just a lot less access to things that you want to do, freedom to do what you want to do. But sometimes, I hear there's like being a foreigner is much different from being a Korean person living in Korea. So as a foreigner, I'm not really affected as much. So we're kind of living two different lives, but living in the same country.
Are there any benefits of living in Korea as an American?
Yes, I mean, I really think that Korea and America have a good relationship with each other. So like even when I first came here for months to travel before I had a proper visa, like you can stay for up to 90 days with no visa, with no problem. And like if you tell people you're American here, I think they generally kind of welcome you because they feel like America and Korea have a good history with each other and that we're kind of like buddies or something. So I do feel like there are upsides to being American in Korea.
Like if you graduated from university as an American and you get like a few basic teaching certifications, you can teach English here. And like I said, they'll fly you out, or at least they did when I was doing it. Now granted, you might have to go to like more of like a rural area at first that will maybe accept someone with a lesser amount of experience. You can't go straight into the heart of Seoul with 0 years of practical, real teaching experience. But as an American, yeah, everything is in English. Like especially in Seoul, like a lot of the menus are in both Korean and English, or even just English.
I think the healthcare system is much better for me living in Korea than paying thousands of dollars per month in the US, because it's very expensive to get healthcare in the US.
I think because of the deep association with like the allies between South Korea and America, as well as the strong military presence of Americans here, I think being an American person, especially like when I've been in taxis and stuff like that, when people ask me where I'm from, I'm like, 저는 미국 사람이에요, like I'm from the States. They're just kind of like, oh, like we love America, we're so thankful for America. So I do think in some regards there's a little bit more of that preference for Americans, depending though, like I said. Because I think if I came from some sort of smaller country and they didn't really know much about it, I wouldn't get preference one way or another. But I think sometimes with older generations, it definitely helps me out. I feel like I'm a little bit more welcome in that regard. But I think as far as like socioeconomic standing, I kind of just about average, I would say, as Europeans, because I also think that Korean people tend to romanticize like the French culture, for example, and things like that. So I think it just kind of depends person to person, but there are times when I felt very welcome as an American talking to older Korean citizens.
I think being a tourist in any country, there's always the benefits of kind of the newness of it. It kind of makes life seem a little bit more shiny, a little bit more fun. But in general, I think being in a foreign country, you have the opportunity, one, to represent your country and who you are, but also to learn a new culture. And I think that's a huge thing people kind of miss out on sometimes. They don't realize, not necessarily the responsibility of being in a new country, but more so the luxury that we have to be able to experience a new country, experience a new culture, and just a new style of life.
Healthcare, public transportation, the safety, basically everything. The quality of life instantly improves, I think, once you come to Korea.
You know, one, especially right now with the won to USD being so, it's like the won's not very strong right now. I think the affordability is pretty strong, especially coming from Southern California. Like things are insanely expensive there versus here. Yeah, things are, like I said, I have like a really big furnished studio apartment and it's like much cheaper than at least $1,000 US cheaper minimum than what I've got in Los Angeles. So yeah, that's a huge benefit.
Since, making American currency while living in Korea is amazing. For one, our dollar is very powerful. Also, like knowing that in Korea right now, they're kind of enjoying American, especially American Black culture. And coming over here, it's kind of, being an African-American myself, it makes it kind of easier for me in the creative field because they're like, oh, that's interesting. Like you're cool, you're different. That's kind of putting me ahead in the creative aspect of it all.
Thank you for watching this video. If you'd love to see more videos like this in the future, I'll urge you to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next video.